Hiya, it's James again. Yeah, thought I'd come back with a quick follow-up to yesterday's very first vlog of mine. A couple of things from that video that I've looked back at it, and I mentioned how terrifying and awful the experience was with lads, but I just wanted to say that it's nothing to do with them. It's not their fault. They're doing their best. I know this is something that isn't really very well understood, and so it's going to be difficult for people, and they've got their clinical assessments to make, and they need to follow those procedures. So as much as it was terrible for me, I'm not blaming you guys in any way, shape or form. Just wanted to make that clear. Also, I mentioned I walked the dog. I just thought I'd introduce him. Well, that's his back of him anyway. Oi, Happy. Happy, say hello. Oh well, he's not really playing. But that's my dog. He's called Happy. He's a cockapoo. He's about 4.5 years old, and he's probably my best mate. He just does what he's told. He doesn't care, does he? He's the type of person who listening to me. He's the type of person, I'm just going to say it anyway, who just cracks on and lives life and loves life, and I love him for it. He's ace. He really is. So what's happened since I did the last video? Well, obviously I've looked at it. I've also started looking into famous people who are autistic, and the one that got me was Anthony Hopkins. Wow, I mean, talk about successful, you know, talk about loved by generations of moviegoers and general people. It's incredible, really. I think people like that. But then, you know, there's other people. I don't know if you watch The Chase. Anne Hegarty, she recently started talking about it. There's the people I mentioned yesterday, Chris Packham and Greta Thunberg. Again, apologies for the pronunciation. Turns out there's a ton of people out there, and I'll do a bit more of an in-depth list just so you can see. But what also interested me was the idea of people looking back and potentially giving diagnoses to people who existed before there was such a thing in the common term as autism. I'll probably also say while I'm here, I have realised that I can put my hood up and you can still see me, so I'm going to be a little bit warmer today. I'm a big fan of poetry. I don't know why. I think just the ability to express a feeling, a sensation, a moment, using a wide variety of words and vehicles, I think it just appeals to me, just in its form. So yeah, and looking back, and people say people like William Blake was potentially autistic. People like Elizabeth Bronte, obviously not a poet, she wrote Wuthering Heights. They feel she may have been autistic. Alan Turing, the geezer who helps us out in the war with the Enigma code, he could be autistic, or could have been autistic. It's fascinating, really. It really is. And one thing I did see was that you may have heard of a chap called Chaucer, Geoffrey Chaucer. He's a very, very famous English writer. Now, there's been quite a few analyses of his work done, and some of the things that have been discovered is that a lot of his characters seem to offer up traits of autism spectrum disorder, which I find fascinating. And so people in turn believe that either he or someone very close to him may have shown similar traits. And what's fascinating about these people and these stories is that just how well received they are in the general populace, how they're given important tasks to complete, they're given important roles to fulfill in their lives. It's like they've seen that they're particularly skilled in particular areas, and so these people are given the opportunity to use those skills and to develop and enhance them in a world which maybe wasn't quite as constricted as the one we live in today. I've got a theory. Bear with me. So back in the day, when there's no such thing as neurotypical or neurodiverse or any of these things, all you really had was people with different sets of skills, people with different talents, different abilities. apologies. And people were kind of just treated with respect for what they could achieve, how they could help society, help the community in which they were engaged in. And then, this is where the theory comes in, we got to this idea of humanity, this idea that we're born, we go to school, we learn a trade, or we learn some skills which put us into the workplace, and then we get a job, we get a house, we have kids, we retire, the kids it's that bit in the middle, the bit about the job, the bit about where we're all expected to conform to this idea of employment. We're all expected to be just the same person, really, just utilising a different skill set, but using very much the same methodologies, and just trying to, I don't know, I hope you see what I mean though, where, you know, all jobs involve similar things, whether it's sales or admin or, you know, skills you learn in school, mathematics, you know, everyone needs to be able to write, everyone needs to be able to follow the boss's vision. I think that is it. I think that the bosses of these companies, they want their workarounds, their drones, to crack on, to do what they're being paid to do. I look at it a different way, in that we're trading our time for cash, but you know, there you go. And so everyone has to conform to this ideology of sameness. And so people who are different, people who maybe think outside of the normal box, people who just have a completely different way of seeing the world, whose perspective might be a bit askew compared to the majority of people. These people get marginalised because they don't fit in. No one looks at what the special skill is anymore. You know. And I just think that's something that we could maybe look at and adapt as a human race. You know, a bit more inclusion. Let's not just have it the way that it always was. Let's maybe change things up. And I'm not a radicalist. Well, I am in some ways, I suppose. I think some things do need to change. But I just want everyone to be happy. That's basically me. And I think for people to be happy, you need to feel as though you're fulfilling some kind of role in society. And so let's give us that chance to fulfill that role in the way that best suits us. Because in the way, that's going to best suit everybody in the end, isn't it? If you've got a special skill, don't try and dumb it down. Don't try and slot them into the same box as everybody else. Highlight it. Use it. Propel people to a position where their own skills can be of real benefit to everybody. Sorry, I'm walking across what appears to be a small marsh. Anyway, that's just my take on that. I just think it's very interesting how, before this notion of, you know, fixed employment service and everyone working in the same exact way, I think before then, people were much more respected. I imagine if you go back to even further, you know, ancient civilizations, you know, these people with a particular talent for numbers or astronomy. I mean, they say possibly Michelangelo, Da Vinci, these people, these were possibly neurodiverse, and that's fantastic. Look at how well they're celebrated these days. Look at how much this perspective that they've given and the art that they were able to produce and the scientific endeavour that Da Vinci in particular was able to, you know, put down on paper. It was ahead of his time. It was totally different. I think it's amazing. I just think it could be harnessed. Anyway, that's my theory, rant over. But I had another thought as well. And this one, it's a bit more about the now. When I thought I might be autistic, I looked around at all my friends. And none of them display signs of neurodiversity. They're all, you know, standard human beings, as people want you to believe. So that made me feel quite alone in who's going to understand. Sorry, people again. Anyway, I thought, yeah, who was going to understand? I alluded to it yesterday. There are people I can talk to. I just worry that there isn't really anybody who's going to understand what I'm going through. So, this brings me back to what I was saying earlier. But when you look around, all these different people. So we're not alone. Whether you are in your own community, or, you feel like the people you're talking to are specialists, or, that they know what they're talking about, but they might not be neurodiverse themselves. So it's very easy to feel alone. Very, very easy. Especially when you're being told you're different. Sod that. Sod that completely. You're not alone. There's absolutely tons of us. I keep saying us. I keep assuming that I'm going to get this diagnosis. Fingers crossed. For the reasons I laid out yesterday. But yeah, never think you're alone. Never, ever, ever think you're alone. There's always someone out there going through what you're going through. I don't think there's anything in the world which has ever been the one-off. People talk about exceptional things as 1 in a million. Well, there's over 7 billion people on this planet. There's at least 7 million people can be classed 1 in a million, and they're all the same. Do you know what I mean? That was a bit confusing. I apologise. So here we are. This is the situation we find ourselves in now. There are people out there. There is a network that you can speak to. There are services, and I'm going to be looking into those services, what's available, what people can rely on, information that's out there, people who are using their time to understand this better. And hopefully I can distill some of that information, hand it down and start putting some links in the description boxes and such. If you've got any questions that you might want answering that you don't feel comfortable sorting out, here's a question. How do I get over that? Jump time. Must be energetic. So yeah, if you've got any questions, put them down in the comments. I'll try and get an answer for you. I know some good people in this sphere, and they're helping me already. So I'll see if they can provide more help. Because that's what I'm here to do, really. I'm here to shine a light on it, understand it myself, and if I can in the process, help other people. There's nothing great about this. It's literally me trying to help myself and hoping that some other people can get some benefit off it at the same time. So, look after yourself and be as free as you can. See you later.